You're watching World Talks on TVP World. I'm Aaron Darman. A suspected Turkish hitman armed with a loaded pistol and 26 rounds of ammunition has been arrested in the heart of Warsaw. The 43-year-old man had an Interpol Red Notice out for his capture and was ultimately caught unawares on the corner of a busy street. So what is the risk of international organised crime spreading in Poland? And are local gangs becoming multinational networks? Paulina Piasecka is the Terrorism Research Center Director at Civitas University and joins me now. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening.
So what do you read into this arrest of an alleged Turkish contract killer in Warsaw who's accused of belonging to a violent group behind murders, kidnappings and armed attacks in Turkey? I mean, is this good news that officials caught him, or is it worrying that he was here in the first place?
I think one might say both. It is good that he was caught. It's not so good that he was even here. Unfortunately, the second part is becoming more and more a new normal of the Polish reality when it comes to the activities of our law enforcement and intelligence. The influx of international criminals, including gangs from behind our eastern border, is something that worries most of our institutions as well as politicians that deal with Polish security.
And we'll go into detail on that in just a moment. I want to ask you where the blind spots are. I mean, what are some of those areas that officials miss that mean operatives like this slip through the cracks and into the country?
Well, I think one of the biggest worries here is the fact that we do deal with the new wave of something that is predicted to be the repetition, albeit in a much bloodier manner, of the Polish difficult 90s. And so the influx of the criminals that are either hardened by war from behind our eastern border from Ukraine, because it's not only the Turkish organized crime, it's also the Georgian or Ukrainian groups that are influencing the activities of the Polish underground. And it is connected with the difficulties in guarding the external borders of the European Union that is connected with the ongoing war crisis and also the hybrid activities of our enemies, the enemies of the widely understood West.
So you're saying that some people from Ukraine could be so, in a way, desensitized or hardened to the reality of war and become involved with these international criminal networks, and as a result, that means that they're largely desensitized to carrying out certain acts on what we would call Western territory.
This is actually not something that I'm extrapolating from just the fact that there is a war going on. It's also the actual existence of the Ukrainian criminal groups here in Poland. Their existence and presence in Poland has been confirmed by our law enforcement, which is a sad proof that, unfortunately, the spread of violence, this pandemic of violence, is going to have this blowout effect outside of the territory of Ukraine, even without the war conflict spreading. And this is a natural consequence. We are dealing with people who are very experienced in using weapons, who are very experienced in using violence as the means to reaching their goals, and also people who are very well armed. I mean, the numbers of weapons, the sheer number of weapons that have been transported into Ukraine during the period of this conflict is immense.
Understood. So what you are saying is that there is a real threat, in fact, a reality of some of these criminals operating out of Poland's major cities already.
Yes, unfortunately, this is true. I think there are three main regions that are connected with the idea of and reality of influencing Polish underworld. This is Georgia, this is Turkey. Albeit Turkey is a little bit of the quick in and out kind of not the host, the guest, a quick in and out kind of a guest. It's more of the transfer and safe haven rather than the actual area of activities for Turkish criminals. But it's also, unfortunately, the Ukrainian groups. So we're dealing with Georgia, Turkey, Ukraine, also Belarusian groups are active in the Polish territory. So we are unfortunately dealing with the situation in which our law enforcement might be confronted with the quite brutal criminality and quite brutal criminal tactics from outside of the territory of Poland.
Okay, so given your expertise, I want to break down a little bit about kind of what these networks look like in practice. What are they reflecting in day-to-day society, particularly in Poland? So tell me, how are they gathering intelligence? What do they look like? How are they building their contacts? Are they using normal jobs as covers, and what are some of those jobs?
Well, I think we must differentiate between the white-collar crime and the normal criminal activities that we're so much afraid of. If we were talking about the white-collar crime, the criminality that's connected with, say, high-level value-added tax operations, or maybe some sort of operations against the financial institutions, there might be probably a group of people hiding behind the legally obtained jobs and the jobs that pay quite well and that blend into the everyday society. Unfortunately, I think the criminality that we are worried most right now is the criminality of the as I've already mentioned, the Polish 90s, so the criminality that deals rather in the brutal violence, that deals with the use of arms and weapons, that deals with using the explosives in order to achieve their goals. So the vicious, violent criminal acts out there in the streets of Polish cities. And this is this new old normal that might come back to the Polish cities and the Polish streets, which is kind of worrying because we had a huge break in experience with such violent criminality. We sort of have gotten used to this type of white collar / cyber crime. So I wouldn't be looking for the people hiding in between the normal citizens when we're talking about those criminals that we are worried and our law enforcement is most worried about. These are the people that operate in the shadows, that operate in the well-organized, violent and armed groups.
And can you spell out what the key motivator is? I can make a guess, but are we just talking about money? Are we talking about cold hard cash? Is that all what this is about, or is there more to it?
Well, probably for the direct operators, for the perpetrators that do the deed, this might be just about the cash. Now, what we might be interested in is looking for the motive of the people who direct them and who tell them where to go and what to steal and how much to steal and from whom to steal. We do realize that all of those, especially professional organized crime groups, they might be directed from the outside. They might be the element of the attempt to destabilize the economy and destabilize the social stability of a country with the use of serious criminal acts. Now, that might mean that while for those of members of those criminal organizations that are actually involved in committing the crime, it might be about the direct benefits that come from doing the crime. For their controllers, for their handlers, it might be more about, for example, leveraging the rising level of criminality against the legal government and law enforcement in Poland. And I'm trying to say here, if somebody rises the level of criminality, if people start feeling threatened by the violent criminality in Poland, it might be a fuel for the new narrative stating that the Polish government or the Polish law enforcement is not able to provide the proper level of protection and proper level of security to the citizens of Poland. And it might be an absolutely phenomenal tool of hybrid warfare and propaganda campaigns and information campaigns.
A very interesting space to watch. Paulina Piasecka, Terrorism Research Center Director at Civitas University, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
And that's all for this edition of World Talks. Do stay with us here on TVP World. I'm Aaron Darman. Good night.